At 20 years old, Jamie Vardy was nothing more than a Sunday League player with an electronic tag around his ankle. This isn't just another underdog story. This isn't just another rags to riches tale. This is the story of how a factory worker who couldn't even leave his house after 6 p.m. became the most unlikely Premier League champion in history. At 25, he was earning £30 a week playing in England's 8th tier. At 28, he was lifting the Premier League trophy. At 33, he became the oldest player to win the Golden Boot. What you're about to discover is the exact blueprint of how Jamie Vardy defied every rule of modern football. Not just through goals and glory, but through sheer bloody-minded determination that turned rejection into resurrection. Every stage of his journey has been documented, every setback analyzed, and every triumph that seemed impossible has been broken down to show you how dreams can survive when everything else dies. We'll explore how an ankle monitor saved his career, the moment Leicester's miracle began, and why his story proves that in football, as in life, it's not where you start, it's how far you're willing to climb. But first, let me show you just how deep the hole was that Vardy had to escape from. But what if someone told you that a team given 5,000 to 1 odds would not only win the Premier League, but do it with a striker who'd been playing non-league football just 3 years earlier? Leicester City weren't supposed to be champions. They were supposed to be relegated. The season before, they had escaped the drop by the narrowest of margins. Most pundits predicted they'd go down. The bookmakers barely gave them a chance. But Jamie Vardy had other plans. He started the season like a man possessed. Goal after goal, game after game, week after week. Against Sunderland, he scored. Against West Ham, he scored. Against Tottenham, he scored. Against Bournemouth, he scored. By November, something extraordinary was happening. Vardy had scored in 11 consecutive Premier League games. A new record. A feat that seemed impossible for a player who'd been stacking shells just years before. This wasn't just about individual brilliance. Leicester had found something magical, and Vardy was their talisman. The goals kept coming. 24 goals in the Premier League. The Golden Boot within touching distance. Leicester sitting at the top of the table. And the final whistle blew on that miraculous season. Leicester City were champions. 5,000 to 1 odds overcome. The impossible made possible. And at the heart of it all, a Sunday League hooligan who refused to accept his limitations. This season didn't just change Leicester's history. We wrote the rules of what was possible on modern football. But before he conquered the Premier League, Vardy had to conquer something far more personal. His own demons. The year was 2007. Jamie Vardy was 20 years old. He was playing for Stocksbridge Park Steels in 8th tier English football, and he was wearing an electronic tag around his ankle. The story began with loyalty. Vardy was out with a friend who wore a hearing aid. Some men started mocking his friend. Vardy couldn't stand by and watch. He fought, was arrested, and was charged with assault. The court's decision was swift: electronic monitoring, house arrest after 6 p.m, no exceptions. For most footballers, this would have been the end. How do you build a career when you can't even attend evening matches? But Vardy found a way. Some games he could only play the first half. Then he'd sprint to defense, jump over into a waiting car, racing home before his 6 p.m. curfew. The ankle monitor was supposed to be his prison. Instead, it became his protection. The metal was so strong it shielded him from the brutal tackles that were common in non-league football. More importantly, that assault charge saved his life in an unexpected way. Vardy had been planning to join the army. He'd passed the initial tests. He was ready to leave football behind forever. But at the recruitment office, he had to declare his criminal record. The army rejected him. Football was his only option left. Sometimes what feels like your lowest moment becomes the foundation for your greatest triumph. While other players his age were training at Premier League academies, Vardy was lifting heavy carbon fibre into industrial ovens. Every morning at 6 a.m. the alarm would sound. Not for training, not for tactics, for work. The carbon fibre factory was hot, back-breaking. Vardy would spend 8 hours lifting materials that were slowly damaging his spine. The heat was suffocating. The work was relentless. The pay was barely enough to survive. But in the evenings, when his shift ended, something magical happened. He would drive to Stocksbridge Park Steels, change into his boots, and for 90 minutes he wasn't a factory worker. He was a footballer. £30 a week. That's all Stocksbridge could pay him. Barely enough for a night out. But it was his first taste of earning money through football. I'd never earned anything through football before, so I was happy to get that, Vardy said. But that money wouldn't go far to make ends meet. The contrast was stark. Days spent in industrial heat, evenings spent chasing dreams, weekends spent proving that talent doesn't recognize social boundaries. 55 goals in 115 games for Stocksbridge. Each goal scored after a full day's manual labour. Each celebration a small victory against circumstance. While others were given everything, Vardy was earning everything. One goal, one game, one dream at a time. But talent, no matter how raw, has a way of demanding attention. Halifax Town came calling. A bigger club, better facilities, higher level. But they came with warnings. Don't sign him, people said. He has a bad reputation, criminal record, gets too many red cards. Halifax ignored the advice. £15,000. That's what they paid for Vardy. It was the best investment they ever made. 25 goals, player of the season, promotion achieved. Then Fleetwood Town arrived. £150,000, 10 times what Halifax had paid, a club record fee. Some Fleetwood players couldn't understand the signing. Who is this guy? Never heard of him. Why are we paying so much? But Vardy had finally reached a level where he could focus solely on football. No more factory shifts, no more industrial ovens, no more choosing between work and dreams. The transformation was immediate. He became the fittest player on the team, the fastest, most determined. His teammates nicknamed him the Cannon. Not just for his shooting, but for his explosive pace, his relentless energy, his refusal to accept defeat. 31 goals in one season. Promotion secured. The football world was starting to take notice. Each level conquered was proof that talent, when combined with determination, recognizes no boundaries. Then came the phone call that would change everything. Leicester City, a championship club with Premier League ambitions. £1 million, the highest fee ever paid for a non-league player. At 25 years old, Vardy was finally entering football, but the real test was just beginning. His debut came against Torquay United in the League Cup. He scored. The crowd erupted. The dream was alive. But dreams and reality are different beasts. In his first season, Vardy managed just 5 goals. The step up was brutal. The pace was different. The pressure was suffocating. Fans gave him abuse on social media. Critics questioned the fee. Vardy began to doubt himself. It was tough, Vardy admitted. I came into a dressing room with a lot of big names and I wasn't used to it whatsoever. The drinking started. Every night he would go home and mix Skittles with alcohol, a strange concoction that was stopping his injuries from healing. His blood was more alcohol than plasma. Leicester's vice-chairman revealed the truth. Vardy would turn up to training drunk. He was struggling with not being the main man. He was thinking about quitting football entirely. But 2 men refused to give up on him. Nigel Pearson, the manager, Craig Shakespeare, his assistant. They saw something others couldn't. They believed when Hardy couldn't believe in himself. They kept telling him how good he could be. Sometimes salvation comes not from within, but from those who see your potential when you've lost sight of it yourself. The summer of 2014 was Vardy's crossroads moment. He could continue down the path of self-destruction, or he could honor the faith that Pearson and Shakespeare had shown in him. Vardy made his choice. He quit drinking completely, cold turkey. But he replaced one addiction with another. 3 cans of Red Bull before every game, a double espresso on top, enough caffeine to power a small city. It made me run around like a nut job, Vardy said, but it worked. The 2014-15 season was his breakthrough. 16 goals, Players' Player of the Season. Leicester promoted to the Premier League. But promotion brought new challenges. The Premier League was supposed to be too big for Leicester. Too fast, too technical, too expensive. They were immediately installed as favourites for relegation. Vardy was expected to struggle. The step up from Championship to Premier League had broken many players before him. Initially, it looked like the critics were right. Leicester started the season terribly. By March, they were bottom of the table. 9 games to go. Relegation seemed certain. But then something clicked. Vardy scored against West Brom. A last-minute winner. The crowd erupted. The belief returned. Leicester won their next 4 games, Vardy scoring crucial goals. The Great Escape was on. They survived relegation by the smallest of margins, but they had learned something valuable. They belonged at this level. Fast forward to 2019, and many thought Vardy's best days were behind him. He was 32 years old, in football terms ancient for a striker. Younger, faster players were emerging. The game was evolving, but Vardy had one more masterpiece left in him. The 2019-20 season was supposed to be his farewell tour. Instead, it became his greatest triumph. 23 goals in the Premier League. At 33 years old, the oldest player to ever win the Golden Boot. This wasn't just about defying age. This was about defying every expectation that had ever been placed on him. The boy who was told he was too small. The teenager who was rejected by Sheffield Wednesday. The young man who wore an ankle monitor. The factory worker who earned £30 a week. Now he stood as the Premier League's leading scorer. Proof that talent doesn't have an expiration date. Evidence that dreams don't recognize deadlines. Leicester reached the FA Cup final that season. Vardy had played in every single round of the competition, from the preliminary rounds with Stocksbridge to the final at Wembley. When Leicester lifted the FA Cup, Vardy achieved something unique in football history. He had played in every round of the competition, from the very bottom to the very top, a journey that spanned his entire career. It was the perfect metaphor for his life, starting at the bottom, but never stopping the climb. So there it stands, the complete story of how Jamie Vardy conquered the Premier League. From Sunday League hooligan to Premier League champion, Vardy's journey proves that in football, as in life, your starting point doesn't determine your destination. He didn't just score goals. He rewrote the rules of possibility. He didn't just win trophies. He redefined what it means to never give up. He didn't just play football. He lived proof that dreams have no expiration. But while Vardy conquered England through determination and grit, there's another story of a player who dominated Europe through pure skill and artistry. The next video reveals how Cristiano Ronaldo became the greatest of all time, because while Vardy mastered the art of defying expectations, Ronaldo mastered the art of exceeding them.